You are 20 years old, and your hands smell of iodine before they ever smell of gunpowder. Your father is the doctor of a small village in Franconia, the only doctor for 6 villages around. And you grew up in the back seat of his rattling Opel, holding his bag on your knees while he drove through the night to farmhouses where someone was being born or someone was dying. You are in your first year of medical school in Leipzig, and your plans are simple. Finish your studies, come home, take over the practice. Learn the names of every patient the way your father knows them, by their coughs, before they even sit down. Nothing heroic, nothing complicated. In the summer of 1942, the paper with the eagle arrives. Because of your year of medical school, the Army makes you a sanitäter, a combat medic. Your mother cries at the kitchen table. Your father says nothing for a long time. Then he goes to his study and comes back with a small pair of field scissors, scratched, plain, older than you. He carried them through the First War, 4 years of it, in the mud of Flanders. They cut cloth, he says, putting them in your hand. Cloth and nothing else. They have never once asked whose uniform it was. And then he gives you the sentence you will carry further than any equipment the Army will ever issue you. You cannot stop all the bleeding in the world. Stop this one. You do not understand it yet. You think it is advice about medicine. It will take 3 years of the Eastern Front to teach you that it is advice about staying sane. Medic training is short, frighteningly short. Tourniquets, pressure dressings, morphine syrettes, splints, how to drag a man twice your weight. The instructor, a veteran of the French campaign with 2 fingers missing, tells your class the one thing he considers essential. Every soldier in this army is trained to take cover. You are trained to stand up. When everything with legs is running one way, you will be running the other. Get used to the idea now. That is where you meet Anton. Anton is from Vienna, a conservatory student, a cellist, with long, careful hands that were built for strings and are now learning to tie tourniquets. He is assigned as your stretcher partner, which means that for the next 2 years, the 2 of you will carry the same weight, hear the same screams, and trust each other with your lives 12 times a day. In his breast pocket, Anton keeps a tuning fork. When things get bad, he strikes it against his helmet and holds it to his ear. One clean, pure note, an A, humming through the steel and the noise. So I don't forget, he says, what the world sounded like before all this. You deploy east in the spring of 1943, and in July, near a city called Kursk, you learn what your job actually is. The offensive begins, and the world becomes a single continuous explosion. And through that explosion, over it, under it, you hear the sound that will follow you for the rest of your life. One word, screamed in 100 voices, in every register a human throat can produce. Sani! Medic. It is the loneliest word in any army. It means, I am hit, I am on the ground, I cannot help myself, and you specifically, are my last hope. And when that word sounds, everyone else presses deeper into the earth, and you get up. You get up into machine gun fire with a red cross on your armband and a bag of bandages, and you run toward the thing every instinct in your body is screaming at you to run from. The instructor was right. Nothing prepares you for it. You just do it, because the word is louder than the fear. The first man you treat in real combat has lost most of his forearm. Your training says, tourniquet, morphine, mark the time. Your hands do it while your mind stands somewhere behind you, refusing to come closer. He grips your collar with his remaining hand and asks if he is going to die, and you hear yourself say, no, you're going home, in a voice so calm it frightens you. Where did that voice come from? You don't know. It came with the armband. You will use it 1,000 times, and it will be a lie perhaps a third of the time, and you will never once regret the lie. On the third day at Kursk, in a shell-torn trench, you learned the other half of the job, the half no instructor mentioned. 2 wounded, side by side. A German corporal, shoulder wound, bleeding, screaming, conscious, and a Russian, a boy, 17 at most, left behind in the counterattack, stomach wound, silent, gray, bleeding out fast. Your eyes do the arithmetic your father taught you before the army ever got you. The loud one has 20 minutes, the quiet one has 5. You kneel over the Russian. The corporal calls you a traitor. He is screaming it, a traitor, treating an enemy while a German bleeds. A lieutenant appears at the edge of the trench and asks what exactly you think you are doing, and his hand is on his holster when he asks it, and your own hands keep working, packing the wound, both fists deep in the dressing, while your mouth says words you did not plan. This one is bleeding faster. I'll get to you. Stop shouting. You're wasting blood. You cannot stop all the bleeding in the world. Stop this one. This one. The nearest one. The fastest one. Not the one wearing the right cloth. The scissors have never once asked whose uniform it was. That day, the sentence stops being your father's advice and becomes your entire law. You will break every other rule in the Army's book at one time or another. Never that one. The Russian boy lives long enough to be carried back. Whether he lived longer than that, you will never know. The corporal lives too, and later, in the aid station, he will not look at you. That is fine. You did not do it to be looked at. What follows Kursk is a year of retreat, and retreat is worse. Advancing armies have aid stations, supply lines, evacuation. Retreating armies have you, a bag, and whatever fits on a cart. You learn triage in its ugliest form, the pencil. When the morphine runs low, you write on foreheads, a letter and a time, so the next medic knows who got what and when. When the morphine runs out entirely, you learn what your voice is for. You hold hands. You answer to mama when a 19-year-old calls for her, because in the last minutes it does not matter whose voice says, I'm here. You are 21 years old and you have said, I'm here, to more dying men than most priests will in a lifetime. And you start the notebook. A small gray notebook, and into it go the names of the men who die under your hands. When there is time to ask, when there are papers to read, when there is anything left to identify. German names in Latin script, Russian names copied clumsily in Cyrillic from soldiers' books, letter by letter, like drawings. You cannot say why you do it. There is no order requiring it. It simply seems to you that a man should not be allowed to vanish twice, once from the world and once from all record of it. By the end of the war, there will be more than 400 names. You will never count them exactly. Counting them feels like arithmetic, and they are not arithmetic. Anton changes the way you both survive it. In the aid station, elbow deep in the worst of it, he hums. Bach, mostly. The cello suites, the ones he was learning when the eagle-stamped paper came for him. The wounded go quieter when he hums. Not because of the music, you think. Because a man who can hum is a man who is not panicking. And calm in an aid station is more contagious than typhus. Some evenings, when the shelling moves off, he strikes the tuning fork on his helmet, and you both listen to that one clean note until it dies out. The pitch of the world before all this. Still there, still true. Here is what you want to believe, that the red cross on your arm means something. Sometimes it does. You have walked upright across open ground to reach a casualty, in full view of Russian positions, and no one fired. And you knew, you could feel that men were looking at you down their sights and choosing not to. They're medics, the ones with the small red cross on a white circle, sometimes work 200 meters from you, both of you dragging your own, ignoring each other by a kind of exhausted agreement older than any convention. And sometimes the cross means nothing. In August 1944, during the collapse in the center of the front, you and Anton go out for a wounded man in the open, a boy screaming "Sani" with the last air in his body. Anton walks ahead, upright, one hand raised, armband showing, the way you have both done 50 times. The shot takes him mid-stride. One shot, deliberate. Whoever fired could see exactly what he was. You get the wounded boy back to the line. You go out again under smoke and get Anton back too. He is already gone. His hands, the careful hands built for strings, are still curled around the stretcher pole. That evening you go through his pockets to gather what should go home to Vienna, and you find the tuning fork, and you cannot hand it in with the rest. You keep it. It is the only theft you commit in the entire war, and you commit it without 1 second of shame. You try to hum in the aid station after that. You cannot hold a tune. Anton told you so, laughing a dozen times. You do it anyway, badly. Forever after, badly. There is a thing you must understand about yourself, and you understand it for the first time that autumn, filling out forms by candlelight. You are good at your job, and your job serves the machine. Every man you patch and send back is a rifle returned to the line. The army does not keep you fed and supplied out of mercy. You are maintenance. You repair the machine's parts. You did not choose the war. You do not shoot. Your hands have only ever closed wounds. And still the wounds you close are reopened somewhere else, by the men you saved in someone else's body. There is no clean way to hold this. You hold it anyway. You decide, consciously, at a folding table, at 22, that a man saved is a man saved. And what the machine does with him afterward belongs on the machine's account, and on the account of everyone who built it and cheered it. That does not acquit you. You wore its uniform and you oiled its parts. It only means that inside a monstrous arithmetic, you kept doing the one human sum you knew. Stop this one. It is not innocence. It is the distance between you and innocence, measured honestly. You will spend the rest of your life measuring it. The retreat rolls west through the winter of 1944 into East Prussia, and now the wounded are no longer only soldiers. Refugee columns clog the roads, carts, prams, grandmothers, children walking in the snow. You treat frostbitten toddlers between artillery casualties. And one night in January, in the cellar of a half-burned farmhouse, with the front line 6 kilometers away and moving, a woman goes into labor, and the only person within reach who has ever opened a medical textbook is you. You have seen 400 men die. You have never once seen anyone born. Your father did this 100 times in farmhouse bedrooms while you waited in the car. And now his voice comes to you through the panic, dry and calm. Support. Don't pull. Let it come to you. Count. The shells walk somewhere overhead. The lamp shakes. And into your hands, the same night, the same war, arrives a small, furious, living human being, screaming louder than the artillery. You laugh. You cannot help it. Everyone in the cellar is weeping, and you are laughing like a fool, because for 3 years, your hands have known only one direction of traffic, and tonight, for 1 hour, the door swung the other way. The mother asks your name. You tell her. She looks at the baby and says, "Then so is he. Somewhere out there, if the columns made it west, if the ships made it out, there is a man walking around with your name, born in a cellar between 2 armies. You will think about him on every birthday of your life, his and yours." The end, when it comes in May 1945, is not an ending for you. Medics do not stop when armies do. You go into Soviet captivity with the remains of your unit, and because of the armband, you are put to work in a prisoner's infirmary, and then, because typhus does not check uniforms either, treating Russian civilians in a district hospital with 3 walls and no glass in the windows. The scissors your father carried through one war against Russia now cut bandages for Russian children after another one. You are aware of the size of that irony. You do not speak of it. You just work and learn the Russian words for breathe. It will pass. And I'm here. They release you in 1947. You come home thin, gray at 25, to a village where your father has grown old holding the practice alone. You finish your studies. You sit in lecture halls with 19-year-olds who call you the sergeant behind your back and have no idea what the word Sani sounds like when it is screamed. And then you come home for good, and you take over the practice, and you learn the names and the coughs exactly as planned, only 8 years late, which by the standards of your generation is barely late at all. The war does not leave. It just changes its billet. You cannot hear a child cry, anywhere, in a shop, on a train, without your body turning toward the sound before your mind has said anything. You count supplies obsessively. The district pharmacist jokes that you order bandages like a man expecting a siege. You do not laugh at the joke. And in the bottom drawer of your desk, under the prescription pads, lie a gray notebook with 400 names in 2 alphabets, a tuning fork from Vienna, and a pair of field scissors that have now been to Russia twice and still have never asked about the cloth. Every year, on a certain day in August, you take the tuning fork out and strike it once against the edge of the desk, and listen to the clean A until it dies out. The pitch of the world, still there, still true. Anton's mother received his things and his letters. You visited her once in Vienna in 1948 and told her the truth, that he walked upright, that he was reaching a wounded man, that the last thing he did on earth was his job. She asked if he suffered. For once, the calm voice and the truth could say the same sentence. No, it was one shot. He was mid-stride. She held your hand and said he wrote that the humming helped the wounded. And could that be true? You said it was true. It is the truest thing you know. You are 79, at the market in the village square, when a man 2 stalls away drops without a sound. Heart, you know it before he lands. And the circle forms, the way it always forms. People stepping backward, hands over mouths, everyone waiting for someone else. You are old. Your knees are ruined. Your bag is at home. You step forward. Of course you step forward. Everyone in the world is trained to step back. You were trained differently 60 years ago, and it does not wear off. You kneel on the cobblestones, an old man over a dying one, your hands finding the ancient rhythm. And somewhere behind you, you hear your granddaughter. She is studying medicine in Munich. She was carrying your basket. Drop to her knees on the other side and take over the compressions when your arms give out, exactly as you taught her, counting aloud, calm as a lie in an aid station. The man lives. The ambulance takes him. The square exhales. And your granddaughter helps you up off the stones and asks if you are all right. And you look at her hands, young, careful, certain, and you understand that it is time. That evening, you give her the scissors. You tell her where they have been: Flanders, Kursk, East Prussia, a cellar with a newborn, a Russian hospital with no windows. You tell her they cut cloth and have never once asked whose. And then you give her the sentence, the whole inheritance, 4 generations of it now. And you watch her write it down on the first page of her anatomy notebook. And you know it will outlive you, which is the only kind of victory your particular war ever offered. You cannot stop all the bleeding in the world. Stop this one.